Good evening, family. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Sunday, January the 26th, 2025, and the time is 4:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to be brief because I know a lot of people are busy spending time with your family members, and also you might be spending time watching the game. So just briefly, I want to talk about this citizenship issue that a lot of people have been asking me about. The Trump administration, according to reports, has been questioning birthright citizenship of Native Americans. Now, I think a lot of people are a little confused about that. They're like, why would the Trump administration even bring up Native Americans? Because Native Americans are allegedly Americans. Well, as I continue to say, there is a difference between native born and natural born. So, specifically, the Trump administration and the Justice Department is making an argument defending his executive order that suspends birthright citizenship, which so many words say if you're born on the land, then you automatically have citizenship. So, why is the Trump administration questioning birthright citizenship of Native Americans? Should their children be automatically classified as United States citizens or Americans once they're born on the land? And if they weren't considered Americans, then where are they going to be deported to? So that's why a lot of people are questioning that. People have been writing me. Well, I don't know necessarily that he wants to deport Native Americans or their children that are born on the land because I haven't done enough research on that issue. But I will tell you that Native Americans are not Americans. Okay, they're not. There are a lot of people here masquerading as Americans. And what I mean by Americans is the original definition of American. Even when you look as far as the 1828 Webster's definition of American, it will say the copper colored races found here by Europeans. Actually, it will say Aboriginals or the copper colored races found here by Europeans, but now applied to Europeans in America. So the original definition of Americans are the Aboriginal people, the copper colored races, the so-called Black peoples that are here. They were misnomered or classified as Black or African American or colored, but that is not our designation. Black is a status in law. It means you have no legal standing and it means you're dead. That's why they have us calling ourselves Black, Negro, colored, or African American. But we, in fact, are the indigenous copper colored races that were found here. Now, what about the Native Americans? When you do your research, you would discover that the Native Americans were actually shipped here or allowed to come here by crossing the Bering Strait into the Americas in order to steal the identity of the people that were already here. Now, some may have come here to run away from the enslavement and wars that were going on in their nations in Asia. But when they came here, they classified themselves as Native Americans. So it is true that you can call them Native Americans because native born and natural born are two different things. Natural born means you sprung from the soil. The same dirt that's in the soil, in the ground, is the dirt that's in your colon. You literally sprung from this place. Your ancestors have come from this place. That's natural born, okay? Native born means that you may have been born on this land. You may be hypothetically from here because you were born here, but you are not natural born because your ancestry comes from another place. The Native Americans are allowed to call themselves Native American, but what they did in essence is not only call themselves native because they came from somewhere else when they crossed the Bering Strait from Asia to here, but they also stole a lot of our identity, calling themselves the indigenous people here. And also taking a lot of the land and protecting themselves on protected territory. Now, some people will say, well, it's good that they are the protectors or the guardians of our land. And then when everything's restored or returned back to the Aboriginal people here, the copper colored races, so-called African-American, Black people, or Negro colored people, then at least the land is preserved. But the other side of that is that a lot of Native American tribes tried to keep us out of the reservations. They didn't want us to receive any benefits whenever the government tried to give benefits to the Native Americans or when they succeeded in giving them benefits. And they did everything in their power to block many so-called African Americans from tribal leadership and even taking them to court. So again, native born and natural born are two different things. Natural born, your ancestors came from this place. You sprung from the soil. The same dirt that's in the soil is the dirt and DNA and genetic codes that's in your colon. So this is why this question of Native American birthright citizenship has come up, because President Trump and the administration know they're not natural born. And I reserve my judgment as to whether or not their children should be classified as Americans. But I think the argument is more so, are they classified as United States citizens? Now, the whole concept and idea of citizenship should be in question anyway, because citizenships are related to or coincide with the United States Incorporated. Okay. The group of bloodline families who usurped authority from our republic, which is our lawful government here that we had standing, the copper colored races and the people that were here working with us, that even some of the Europeans, they were involved in establishing this republic as well. So those people who are already here had their own way of doing things. But the people that came here, of course, were a part of the republic. And then you had some people from them that sprang up and usurped authority from our lawful republic. And what do I mean, people from them? I mean, from some people, from the Europeans, and maybe even the Moors that came here from Europe. Who knows who actually are those bloodline families that usurped authority from our lawful government and then incorporated themselves in 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization in the state of Delaware. That is the United States Incorporated. They have their own constitution called the Constitution of the United States Incorporated. Anybody that they oversaw or enslaved or got to buy in on this idea that they're the government, they considered citizens. A citizen is a slave. You sit in sin and you are governed by, managed and controlled by the United States Incorporated, which is also considered the deep state or the cabal or the Illuminati. So again, citizens are those that are governed and controlled by the United States Incorporated. The Aboriginal copper colored people, according to many different documents, were never supposed to be considered citizens or slaves, because we had our own lawful government, our culture, and our own way of doing things. I know it can be a little convoluted, a little confusing, because they did this intentionally so that we can all not really know what's going on. What President Trump is doing and the Earth Alliance and those entities behind him is they're systematically destroying the United States Incorporated, the deep state, the Illuminati, the cabal, and their whole system. That includes the whole idea of citizenship. Okay, because when you destroy the United States Incorporated, you have no more citizens or slaves or people being governed or ruled by the United States Incorporated, which, by the way, is insolvent, bankrupt. Okay, and basically will have to go away once President Trump dismantles the United States Incorporated by using their tools, which is executive orders. Then he will step down, as I said last night, and he will return everything back to the people, we the people here in America, and we will then have our republic restored. Then after that, after the republic is restored, then the Aboriginal people will go into tribal ways or tribal laws and tribal governments. How that's going to look, I don't know, but I'm telling you what's happening. So that's why this whole idea of citizenship is coming about, because we have to restore the republic, and then we have to return the land back over to the original people who were here, the copper colored races. Again, they had their own government, their own culture, their own ways of doing things. And when other people came to the land, the Americas, there were some treaties that were established between the two entities. Keep in mind that when the Europeans came here and they established themselves in that New England era, you know, England is the New England because they came from Britain. Those people had their own government. They were a nation within a nation. This is why Obama said at one time and President Trump said another time, Morocco was the first nation to identify us as our own nation, because the United States Incorporated had their own nation, their own laws, their own government. And the red, white, and blue flag, one of them anyway, was their flag of commerce, their banner of commerce. And again, some say there were treaties between the Europeans that came here and the Aboriginal copper-colored races that were here. Well, a group sprung up from among the people. Some say it was the group that sprung up came from the colonists or the people that were in those colonies. Some say they actually were the Moors or the brutish Moors or the dirty Moors that had come here and had brought the Europeans with them. And they became the ruling class. So if you support the idea that it was the Moors that came over here and brought the Europeans with them, then you understand and understand that those are the bloodline families that's controlling the 13 bloodline families that we know of. They are the ones that are controlling, allegedly, the European bloodlines, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Clintons, and all the other ones, numerous ones that I've announced to you or shared with you before. And so what they did, these Europeans, brutish Moors, British Moors, dirty Moors, some people will call them, is they put certain European people and their descendants in certain areas to control the whole system of what they call white supremacy. What do you mean they put them in certain areas? They put them in the 9 areas that is discussed by Dr. Neely Foley. Those 9 areas, some of which include education, entertainment, politics, government, health, and medicine, and there are many others. So when you put the Europeans in places to control those different areas, you make them the gatekeepers. So they are actually the puppets that the Europeans, whether or not they were the dirty Moors or not, controlled over here. And you put them in place, and then they control all of the copper-colored races that are on the planet. It's really, really weird. So all of this is going on in order to confuse the people, divide the people, and have us having civil war amongst each other, fighting between each other. While this is happening, though, the government means to control, rule, or manage, is controlling, ruling, and managing your mind with this whole system called white supremacy, and with this whole system to enslave us all. Okay, so all that was happening or is happening, it has been going on for a long time. And in the meantime, these ruling class who controlled the Europeans and who controlled those people that were gatekeepers in the 9 segment of society or 9 areas were actually living a good life. As some of the chiefs have said, they are the ones, the so-called Moors or Black people that live in elite classes in gated communities in different parts of America. And you never see them. You never see them. They call themselves, elite, and they'll even say in their books that they'll have a title called Our Kinds of People, because they're like, we're not like you other Blacks. We're not like you little African Americans, you Negroes, you colored people, because they know their bloodline. And a lot of them are the so-called Black folks that are entertainers. They're the musicians. They're the athletes. They're the ones that are in politics. Okay. These bloodline families that have been ruling the world and ruling America are not all Caucasian. They're not all Europeans. And please keep in mind that all Europeans are not fair skinned. Many of them that's been ruling America are dark skinned. And I've already gone over all of those elite bloodline families that look like me that control the European looking bloodline families. So all I'm saying is the whole system that they created called white supremacy has to be dismantled. But the whole system of white supremacy is really weird because white is not a color. White is a status. Okay. Just like Black is a status. White is a status of power. White was the status that was given to people that were landowners. Some say originally the Aboriginal people here in America actually had white status because they owned or managed or were the stewards of the land since they sprung from the land. And the Europeans that came here were given Black status because when they came here as slaves. But the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminati switched things on us. So it's neither here nor there right now. What's happening is the Earth Alliance is using Donald Trump to create executive orders to dismantle the deep state, also known as the cabal, also known as the Illuminati, also known as the United States Incorporated. Once all of that is done through executive orders, then President Trump will also step down and the Republic will come back up. And then the Republic again will at some point have to turn things back over from constitutional law to common law, tribal law, where the tribes will be able to rule, govern, and control themselves. So I would just say, keep your energy maintained and your emotions in check, because we know this is a systematic destruction of the deep state. And that's why birthright citizenship has to be in question, because a lot of people that are here in America wanted for many years to classify themselves as American when they are not American. Again, native means you came from somewhere else. Natural born means you are from the land. This is why the forefathers constructed in the Constitution for our republic that in order to become a president, you had to be natural born and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, natural born to the land. Because if you're not natural born, if your ancestors aren't from America, then your allegiance is to the country of your ancestry. And I don't know why people have a hard time understanding this. If I am Nigerian, which I'm not, but if I'm Nigerian and I'm born in China, that does not make me Chinese. They could care less that I happen to be dropped off there and born there. They could care less if my parents were even there. I'm not considered Chinese. I'm considered Nigerian, or maybe if you bold enough, you can call yourself Nigerian Chinese. I don't know how that works, but you're Nigerian. It's the same here. You can be born here, but if you didn't spring from this soil and your ancestry isn't from here, you're not American. It's not a hard concept. It's just that everybody's been so used to getting away with stealing the identity of the copper colored races that are here. And you didn't even have just the Native Americans to do that. You have people of European descent and others to, pay $5 to put their name on the doll's robe and call themselves Native Americans or indigenous. Okay. $5 Indians is what we call them. You could just pay $5 and then lie and say that you are an American or an indigenous or an Indian, and you can get all the benefits that the government was putting out. But notice that Donald Trump was the one who said in court, when he was fighting against so-called Native Americans over land, because he was building up some of his towers, and these so-called tribal Indians fought against him, and they went to court. He said, they don't look like Indians to me, because he knew that they weren't Indians. He knew that they were just lying, claiming to be Indians so that they can continue to have access to the land. There really shouldn't be fighting over the land, because we don't own land. Land owns us. We're sprung from the land, which means that the land owns us. Okay. But this whole question of citizenship has been brought forward, and it needs to be discussed, but at some point it will all be done away with. The United States Incorporated will be destroyed. The Native Americans will have to somehow figure out what they're classified as, possibly, but many of them have intermarried with the Americans that are here. Many of them have. Some of them don't want anything to do with the so-called Americans that are here. But the whole question is coming about because we have a lot of unlawful or illegal immigrants that are here just to steal or take and absorb the resources in the land and give their children a better opportunity. And that's why they come here and impregnate themselves, or come here while they're pregnant, let the baby be born here so that baby can have the benefits, and then they can have the benefits. The harm in that is that if there's any harm, is that the Aboriginal people that are here have been so suppressed and already had their land taken from them. They already had their resources taken from them, and now they have their identity taken from them, and now they have their jobs taken from them. Where does it stop? So you have the Native Americans that are allowed to come here, that are from Asia, the Mongoloids, and reclassify themselves and take the land, take the resources, take all the benefits. And then you had other people. You had the Europeans that were here that some say were allowed to come here, but they were given benefits over the Aboriginal people here. And then you had other immigrants coming from all over the world. Yes, just bring them in. We don't care what they look like. We don't care who they are. They can be the worst of the worst and the best of the best, as long as they come and take the jobs and resources of the Aboriginal people here. So the Aboriginal people here don't know who they are. We can just tell them that they're from some African slave ships. They're a slave, and they once was a slave, always going to be a slave, 1,000 years a slave, children going to be a slave, and they're always going to be subject to anything that the government does. So everything has to be destroyed and dismantled, and put right back where it was in the beginning. Excuse me. So why is that important today? Because they play out everything in politics and they show you what their overall goal is and what they've been doing and what they're going to do. Today, we have a game that's playing. I think we have two games today. I've always told you that the chiefs on the land have had their land brought back to them. So the chiefs on the land are now in control. On today, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, playing a game. Is that right? We had the Kansas City Chiefs, but before that, we had the Eagles playing the Commanders against the Commanders. I'm not sure what the score is. I'm not going to make a judgment. I'll let you decide who's going to win between the Commanders and the Eagles. The eagle represents the Roman Empire. You can look that up. The Roman Empire, the Catholic Roman Empire, chose that symbol because of the eagle's prowess and superpowers. They are predators. They're letting you know who they are. Who did the United States Incorporated report to but the Pope? The United States Incorporated is nothing but the pseudo, nouveau, neo-Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire never really ended. So the eagle is the symbol of the Roman Empire, and the commanders are now called commanders, but they used to be called Indians. Who will win? I'll leave that up for you to decide, but I will tell you in the end, at the Super Bowl, the Chiefs will win. Whether it would be an Indian or a chief, whoever it is, whether it be the commanders there that used to be the Indians or the Kansas City Chiefs, whoever it is, they are going to win. It will be really interesting to see if we have a repeat of what we saw about a year or two ago when the Chiefs played against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And I called that way before it happened. I said the Chiefs would want to win because the Chiefs on the land are back in control. So who we have the Commanders against the Eagles right now. And then we have the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't remember who the Kansas City Chiefs are playing against. The Buffalo Bills. The Kansas City Chiefs are playing against the Buffalo Bills. In the end, when the Super Bowl occurs on February the 9th, I believe it is, 2025, whoever is the chief, that's who's going to win, because these people that are so-called elite always tell you what they're up to, what they're doing. And they always give you an idea of what they're planning to do. You just have to know how to read the codes. So the Chiefs on the land are back in control. They're going to have their resources returned. They're going to have their sovereignty returned. And so will all of you, regardless of where you come from or regardless of who you are. Some people that are on the land will have to leave because you're here unlawfully. The good thing about that is, even though it might seem a little daunting that, a lot of people just getting shipped away, is that with the NASARA rollout of benefits, in order to receive those benefits, people will have to be in their own countries. And we already saw, what's the name of that country? Guyana do that. The Guyanan president in South America made a statement at the end of December that he was rolling out $100,000 grant for the people that are citizens or nationals that are over the age of 18. He said, I'm going to give everybody a one-time grant of $100,000. And this was some type of pilot program. But you have to be in your country at the time that you receive it. And you have to prove that you're a national by presenting proper ID. And you have to be over a certain age, over the age of 18. So that's a good indication of how this NASARA rollout or JASARA rollout is going to happen with people that are living abroad. You can receive your benefits, but you have to be in your country. So I just wanted to come on to say that good things are happening. I know that President Trump has been questioning birthright citizenship, but that has to happen because anybody here that's unlawful needs to be back in their country because you came here illegally and unlawfully anyway. Maybe you can go to your country, and if you want to come back, you can do it the right way. But trust and believe that those of us who are American that are here, we're not given the privilege to go in anybody's country, okay, and just stay there and absorb all the resources, take the jobs, have the ability to vote, give birth to our children, then our children automatically becomes a citizen of that nation, or and not only are they not considered a citizen, they're not even considered a national, which is even more powerful than a citizen. A citizen is a slave. So we can't do it, and neither should anybody else be able to do it. All that's happening is a cleanup. You have to reverse all the wrong that has been done. You can't just do people wrong and do them dirty and take away their resources and make them victims and, mistreat them and take away their identity and steal their identity and allow everybody to come on their land, take whatever they want, suppress them, make them jump a bunch of hoops to get any resource, lock up their fathers and their sons, masculinize the female, emasculate the males, imprison the children. You can't run roughshod all over a group of people and think that your time won't come. You can't participate in an unfair, unlawful, egregious, horrendous way of doing things and think it won't backfire. But this cleanup is going to help us all, regardless of who you are and where you come from. Because again, people will be able to go to their own countries and rebuild their own nations. They were able to get benefits from their own governments. And that's a powerful, wonderful, beautiful thing in my eyes. And the people that are here in America can then govern themselves. No longer will you have foreigners and infiltrators to come in and take over your governments, take over your culture, take over your language, and control you with their way of doing things, their policies, their statutes, their codes, and their religion, and their culture or lack of culture. All that is being done away with. So again, we have President Donald Trump, and we have the Earth Alliance, and we have the military, and we have what people are calling galactic beings or interdimensional beings that are here to oversee the whole total, complete destruction of the deep state using their means or their methods or their tool called executive orders. And then after that, again, Trump will step down. The whole United States Incorporated will be declared as defunct, insolvent, and bankrupt. Trump will have made an announcement that it's over. And then you'll have NASARA to roll out. The National Economic Security Reformation Act. Will trillions of dollars will be injected into the economy here in America and abroad. And then you will have the people going to the banks and exchanging their currencies. But all that cannot happen. You can't exchange your currencies and become wealthy overnight en masse if you still have wicked people in power. You have to destroy the whole system, get rid of them, or else they would just steal your money and re-empower themselves. So that's it, family. We will see as the Super Bowl rolls in that the Chiefs on the land are back in control. And that will be the deep state letting you know that their time is up. And they've been saying that for the last 2 years. And that's why we've been able to call it every time we saw a football game and it was an Indian or a Chief playing against anybody, that the Indians and the Chiefs have finally won. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope that I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Good night, family. Peace. Enjoy the game. That's just what it is, a game. Peace.